Hi, I'm DALE Neal from Asheville, North Carolina. And of course, Asheville's been in the news recently with the devastation of Hurricane Helene. I'm going to show you a picture that I've had hanging in my study for a number of years. Excuse my jostling of the camera, but I wanted to give you a picture view, bird's eye view of a panoramic photograph taken by a Herbert Pelton in 1916, more than a century ago. Pelton stood atop Chicken Hill overlooking the still existing Haywood Bridge Road, where spectators gathered and gawked at the incredible damage of the flood in 1916, which had crested at 21 feet on the French Broad. Ancient history, I like to think, an artifact from my wall, until that scene was replayed recently. On September 29th, Hurricane Helene hurried out of the Gulf of Mexico, aiming straight at our southern Appalachians. We'd already had days of record rain, and we were about to see a terrible new reality. The French Broad would rise to a previously unimaginable 25 feet, a biblical deluge that scoured through Asheville and other mountain towns. Tropical winds toppled whole forests and power lines. Mudslides cleaved through houses and roads, even ripping out the lines to the city's reservoir of drinking water. My wife and I were among the fortunate. No trees hit our house. We suffered no damages to our property, just the deep inconvenience of being without power, water, internet, even cell phone signals for a few weeks. Others were not so fortunate, and I still have no words really to describe all the heartache and devastation our region has suffered. And as a writer, that doubly hurts. My novels are set in this landscape, which has now been inalterably changed. Still, when reality overwhelms us, I like to think we still can turn to fiction, to stories, to make sense of our losses and find clues how to rebuild our lives. My latest novel, Kings of Coetzee, is set in a fictional county in western North Carolina, and the residents tell themselves a story about themselves and their mountain home, that nothing really changes. But novels, of course, are all about change and people and how they and their places are always evolving and changing. So let me read the opening pages of Kings of Coetzee. If you found us, you're most likely lost, we like to tease strangers. Coetzee County lies at the tail end of the state, wedged deep in the Blue Ridge, as if a divine crowbar had prized open the high mountains for human habitation. Here you find us, a few remaining families hanging white-knuckled onto steeply sloping hard-scrabble farms. Living back of beyond, we don't consider ourselves a backwards people, but as the keepers of a lost kingdom. Yet no kingdom worth its salt, even in the sweetest of fairy tales, comes without its curse. Once you had to take the slow-bending river road east and west of town, the only way in and out of Coetzee, and then the kingdom cracked open when the feds moved the mountains and poured 6 lanes of concrete so that a family of 4 in a minivan from Cincinnati could blow through here at 75 miles per hour on their way to Disney World. Only the more adventuresome ilk might exit the beaten path to gape at our fall leaves or our mini barns. Even fewer stopped by the Coetzee County Historical Society. Housed in the former jail, our museum holds captive memories, the imprisoned past, from Indian arrowheads to crazy quilts. Handmade banjos fashioned from cigar boxes and catgut strings hang from the plaster walls. Black and white photos show women in long dresses, the grannies who knew heartbreaking ballads from the hills of Scotland, where young lovers died in each other's arms or pricked faithless hearts with silver daggers, songs that Bertie Barker Price liked to hum to herself. And Bertie was on duty at the society when the antique sleigh bells sounded on the front door. Law, if you found us, you must be lost. Bertie alighted from her lonely chair, launching into her best tour guide speech for the couple coming through the door, her first visitor in weeks. Come on in, look around, see the iron bars on the windows? Used to be a jail. But don't worry, I won't fingerprint you, and you're free to go after a sizable donation in that box. Ha ha, hint hint. Me, I'm the only inmate these days. Here was once the lair of lawmen, our own Sheriff Maurice Posey before he got busted for vote buying. Maurice served as the High Sheriff of Coetzee for so long, they say he once ticketed Jesus for jaywalking over the river. Honey, you can cut out the corn-pone act with me, the woman said. Bertie wasn't used to being so rudely interrupted, and her mouth must have hung open for a spell. No need to convert us, the woman said. We're regular folk like you, and believe me, we know the rock and the hard place you're up against. Bertie had misjudged them as flatlanders from Florida. Her in a floral, silky swirl of a dress, sandals tied around her varicose veins, him in a knit yellow polo, white slacks, skin leathery as the loafers he wore with no socks. The man walked briskly through, not taking time to read the little placards Bertie had typed and taped by each display. What you seeing, Bert? The woman raised her voice. Churns, plow bits, the usual. Fair condition, he hollered from the back. The woman paged through the guest book. Not much traffic these days. What's your name, dear? Bertie Barker Price. I'm the docent and director here at the Coetzee Historical Society. Bertie, what a pretty name. I can tell you wear all the hats. Bunch of medals, helmets, army surplus stuff, Bert hollered again. He hit the war displays, highlighting Coetzee's contributions to the Revolutionary, 1812, Civil War, Spanish-American, World Wars I and II, Korea, Vietnam, Grenada, and Panama. Remember those little larks? On to the quick Gulf, and then the longer onslaughts of Iraq and Afghanistan. Photos of the boys who didn't make it home. A sad room if you lingered and looked too hard. And Bert was moving on. Holy moly, Margot, they got a bearskin back here. Big one with claws. Add it to the list, Bert. Bertie and me are just getting started. Their lack of any historical reference ruffled Bertie. Who are you people? What do you want? The woman dug in her yellow leather purse and handed over a business card. Margot and Bert Lounsbury, Historic Inventory Solutions, Atlanta address. We are the saviors of small-town museums and collections, which, unfortunately, no one much values these days. I guess you're a nonprofit, right? With little to no support from local officials? Well, we keep the lights on, and yes, admissions are down, Bertie admitted, feeling somehow to blame. But I can't sell off our exhibits now, can I? Oh, actually you can. Margot's insistent smile never faltered. Check with your peers. Kenner County just shed its collection, and we're consolidating the Franklin County exhibit in Georgia next week. The rural communities need the income, the revenue. When it comes to closing your school library or keeping your small-town museum, well, necessity beats nostalgia, Margot said. And Bertie felt her stomach drop, felt somehow she was to blame, that she had failed her own history. Listening to this woman explain the market for the pastoral, the rural, what folks like to think of as more wholesome times. And Margot's main buyers were the interstate restaurant chains that featured high cholesterol menus and wood plank walls hung with Americana artifacts, which could very well include your bearskin in the back, Margot insisted. Think about it. You have my card. Call us when you're ready. Long after the bells had stopped vibrating on the door, the Lounsburys closed behind them. Bertie stood in her empty museum. She held the business card in her sweaty palm, its sharp corners pressing her flesh like a shard of broken glass. Coetzee, a pretty place to be poor in, remains rich in history, stories, songs, and sayings. And Bertie couldn't live with the betrayal of surrendering all that past, even for a solvent future. But what if the Atlanta lady were right? Even she wondered if the exhibits didn't look more flea market than museum. All Bertie could offer the public, those passing through, was a sanitized, bucolic vision of Coetzee. And if not her, who would share our true stories, the real dirt, the lives that are buried everywhere on the land? And Coetzee's curse was that it never changed. So, again, thank you for your time. Please contribute as you can to help, relief efforts here in Asheville and Western North Carolina. Thank you so much.